Get strong.
Katie, thank you so much for hanging out with us today. And it is just such a joy. I know I mentioned this, but your books have been such an incredible influence, not just on my life, but also my children. Like reading your books and just your experience has opened them up to so much more in this world. So first of all, thank you for everything that you had the boldness to do with your life.
Oh, thank you.
It is such a blessing. Now, I'd love to talk about how, I know it was a long time ago. Well, how many years have you been there? Like 12 years or more?
13, actually. Yeah, it's
13
13 in
years.
August. I know. I don't feel old enough to say that about like anything, but yeah.
So, okay, so let's rewind the clock. Let's go back a little bit. What was it like when did you know? Like you went over there first to visit to Uganda
Right.
and to work alongside a ministry there. And then when did you know, like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing? And how did you know that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I immediately loved Uganda, just everything about it. The people are so joyful and kind and just warm and welcoming. And so I think I really fell in love with the Ugandan people first, but it also is just like a physically beautiful country. We're right here by the Nile River, and it's a pretty tropical climate. I mean, it really is gorgeous. And so I pretty instantly loved it here and knew that I wanted to come back. And then when I initially came back, it was just for a year-long commitment. But
Wow.
during that year is when God laid it on my heart to start Amazima Ministries, which sponsors now hundreds of children to go to school. And God also introduced me to the first girls who were going to be my daughters. And so, as you can imagine, between those two things, feeling a call to ministry and also feeling a call to motherhood, I pretty much within that first year knew that I was going to live here long term.
Yeah, so beautiful. That's so beautiful. And, I'm sure people back home thought, Katie, that's crazy. Like you can't adopt 13 children. Like that's crazy. And now you have 15 children too, that you had biologically. And that's so amazing. But, I have a lot of kids myself. I have 7 children, but a lot of
Oh,
people
wow.
thought that was a lot. But
Yeah.
I'm sure when, as young as you were and are adopting 13 children, like I have no doubt that when God puts something in front of you, of course, he supplies everything you need to do that. But did you feel like you had to explain this or rationalize it or anything to everyone, back in the States who probably were like, what are you doing?
Definitely for a while, I felt like I did, and especially just being in a completely different place, a different country. My parents had visited here, so that was super helpful because then at least as I was telling them stories, they had some context. But for most of my friends in the States, I mean, it was just completely foreign. And there's a funny thing when God really places something on your heart and makes it so clear to you that this is your next step. It can be very hard to explain to someone else who maybe doesn't have that experience, or from an outside perspective, it does look kind of crazy, but it is like you said. I mean, I really believe that when God has given us something to do, or when he's laid something onto our heart, or he's made the path clear, he does supply everything that we need. And there are even moments now, 10, 12, 13 years later, when I look back at certain seasons of our life and honestly feel like, how did we even do that? And I'm sure that as a mom too. You look back at a season when your kids were all so little, or when, extra people were staying at the house, or whatever different things that he's brought us through. I look back and I feel almost overwhelmed for myself. Like, oh, I could never do that again. How did we do that? But it really is just such an encouragement that, like, the thing that God places in front of you, he gives you the strength to do it. And really, like, not the strength for the future, not the strength for the year, not the strength for the month even, but like the strength that you need in that day, in that moment to do the next thing. And so it's fun just to be able to look back at so many seasons of our life and go, wow, like God really did give us what we need, because it gives me the confidence that, you know, he'll give us what we need for the future, for the next thing that he asks us to do.
Absolutely. That is so good, because he is our ever-present help in time of need, like
Mhm.
the present. Not
Yes.
just like you said, like sometimes I'm sure Katie was like, I don't know how I'm going to make it to the next hour.
Right.
But in that moment, like the Spirit of God sustains you in that moment. Don't you just sometimes want to go back like 10 years and just give Katie a big hug and say, girl, it's going to be
Hang
okay.
in there. Yes. Yes, absolutely. I think of that often, just like, oh, the things I would tell my young mother self, you know. It's gonna
Can
be
you share that?
okay.
Like what, like if you could go back, what would you tell your young mother self? And some people are like watching or listening, they're like, she is a young mother, but you are a teenager, like bringing in all of these children, everyone that God placed in front of you. You're like, yes, I will serve them. What would you tell your younger mother self?
I mean, I think I would just, my biggest encouragement to that young Katie would just be, it will all be worth it. You know, every hard moment, everything that's difficult, everything that seems impossible is bringing you closer into relationship with the Lord. And that's really what it is. You know, everything that felt so difficult, it was something that brought me into a greater dependence on him. And I think like that's the ultimate encouragement that I would give, really probably to any young person who is seeking a new thing God has placed in their life, or any young mother who is just, you know, up in the middle of the night with a baby going, I don't know how I'm going to do this one more day. Just that, like, you will know God in a way that you didn't know him before. And like, that's the best gift of all. That makes everything worth it.
Oh my God, it really is. Like it makes it so worth it. And that's, as a life coach, I, see a lot of people who have had a lot of pain in their life.
Mhm.
And when we can take that pain and all of a sudden like give it a new purpose,
Mhm.
then it draws us into more of a dependency on God. And when we're more dependent upon God, we can tap into that superpower that's available to us through him, which is incredible. And I'm sure you can see like that is completely what sustains you even to this day. It's not who you like, your intelligence or your cleverness or your resources, but it's your source. It's God inside you.
Yeah.
That's so beautiful. That's so beautiful. So I want to talk, you had such confidence. You have such confidence in starting Amazima Ministries and moving to Uganda and just doing what you're doing there, serving where you're serving there. How do you think people can know, like, I know this is what I'm supposed to do? Because I know a lot of people feel confusion and they're like, God, just give me a sign, and sometimes we're waiting on a sign, and really God is the sign by what he's laying on our hearts. How would you explain that to someone, how to know what that purpose is?
You know, I get that question a lot. People ask me, you know, how did you know that God was calling you to
Yeah.
Uganda? Or how did you know? And I think as much as I probably come across so confident, I'm not sure that I knew specifically what God was asking me to do other than to do the next thing. And I think sometimes there is this fear of like, oh, we could miss our calling or get it wrong, or, well, I don't know what God is calling me to. And I would say that for me personally, there was not like a moment of audible, go to Uganda, it was more, I came here, I saw needs, I loved it here, I wanted to be here, and I asked God, how would you use me here? Can you use me here? And that's kind of the whole story with the Mazima, with even each of our adopted children. It was really just kind of saying yes to the next thing that God put in front of me. You know, there were a couple of my neighbors and they couldn't afford to go to school. And I thought, oh, well, I can probably access resources. You know, it's not a tremendous amount of money to pay for a child to go to school here. I can probably access the resources to send them. Even about a year into my journey, when I met my first three adopted daughters, it wasn't immediately that I thought, oh, God is telling me to adopt them. It was more honestly that they lived in the same little area as me and they needed a place to stay for a couple of weeks. And I said, oh, well, you know, I have an extra room at the house that I live in. You can come stay for a couple of weeks. Well, and then we couldn't find extended family. So it was okay, you can stay a little bit longer. And then after a while, I did begin the formal adoption process. But I think sometimes we are sitting and we are waiting for, you know, that audible voice or that real moment of clarity of what am I supposed to do next with my life. And some people probably experience that. I don't doubt that God can do that, but I just know that with my own life, it was more about saying yes to the little opportunities he put in front of me. And that can happen anywhere. You know, that doesn't happen only in Uganda. That can happen when you take a meal to your neighbor, you know, when you offer to keep a single mom's kids so that she can go get some time to herself. There are all kinds of little things that we can do to serve. And I feel like the Lord just can continue to build upon those small yeses to take us down the path that he has for us.
Oh, that's so beautiful. And I think about, you know, the verse that when we seek first his kingdom and righteousness, all these things are added. And I remember one time, Katie, I'm directly in the sun, living room over here. But I remember one time I was praying about a specific move I should make, whether I should do like path A or path B or whatever that is. And I remember this, God just so clearly said, it doesn't matter. Whatever you do is blessed because you have my heart. And I think that's touches on what you're saying right there. It's like, we just do the next thing. We just do the next thing that God puts in front of us with seeking his heart. And then he adds everything. And knowing that, you know, we have a promise in Deuteronomy that everything we put our hand to will prosper. That when God puts something in front of us, we just put our hand to it. And that's what you did. Like you said, you know what, there's a need here. There are children who don't have a home. There's someone who's hungry. There's someone who's sick. There's someone who has an addiction. I can serve right here. And I think sometimes you're right. We can get kind of lost in the whole, what is my, you know, what, I don't want to miss the path. I don't want to miss the will. It's like, you know what? His will is his heart and it's right there in front of you.
Right. Absolutely.
And I just believe that's kind of the heart of Amazima Ministries too, is that heart of seeking to be God's hands right there where you are. And what do you think is before you? Like, where are you dreaming? Like, what are your goals now? You've established an amazing ministry over there and you're serving so beautifully in Uganda. What are you seeing in the future?
Yeah, well, something really exciting that Amazima has coming up in the future is that we've just built a primary school and we're hoping to open it next year. Now, of course, there are all these different government regulations around school right now, but if all goes as planned, we'll be able to open the doors to our primary school in 2021. And so we're really excited about that. We already have a secondary school. We felt like, honestly, it felt like we needed to invest in our teenagers first, just because of all the different obstacles that they're facing. We have about 700 children total in our program. So now we have a secondary school that has a little over 300 of those children. And then hopefully we'll open the doors to this primary school. It's in the community where most of our children come from. And it'll be a day school, so they'll just come during the day. But we're really hopeful that we'll be able to give them just the same high level of gospel-centered education that we're providing right now for our secondary level students. And something that's really exciting about the primary school is that we have specialized classrooms for children who have special needs. We meet a lot of children in the villages here who have special needs, and parents aren't quite sure what to do with them just because of a lack of education. They're not quite sure what disability means, if it's a treatable illness, and a lot of the people that we work with, you know, they have hard, long jobs. They need to be gone the whole day in their gardens or in factories or wherever they happen to work. And often that means they have to leave their disabled children at home. sometimes even alone. And so we're just really excited to be able to offer a place where these children can come and they can learn and they can be around their other typically developing peers. And I think it'll just be a really sacred place of loving these children who are seen as a little bit different, and also teaching the other children in our program that it's okay to be different, and you're still loved by God, and you're still created in his image, and there still is, you know, so much value in every little life that we serve. So I'm especially excited about that. We have 3 young women who have come through our program and go to our secondary school, and their youngest sister is about 5 years old and she has Down syndrome. And their mother has been asking me for years, will she be able to go to school? Will she ever go to school? And there isn't currently a school in the area where she could attend and have her needs met. But we'll be able to take her into our program, as well as some other kiddos who need specialized education and have a special aid for her. And so yeah, I'm really excited that we have the ability to go back to this family and say, yeah, she will be able to go to school just like her sisters did. And we're going to see her reach her full potential. And we've already started, you know, we've hired a lot of our teachers already, and they're just people who love children and love the Lord and love the gospel. And even something as simple, I mean, I was looking over the plans for campus in a meeting a couple weeks ago, and I just started crying when we got to the building of the library. Because even something as simple as a library where there are picture books to look through are pretty unheard of in our community, just because of lack of resources. And so even just the idea of these kids being able to come and sit in a library and look through picture books and just have their imaginations expand, you know, in the way that I see my own kids look through picture books. I'm super excited about all that God's gonna do there.
So beautiful, so beautiful. So can people, because I know like when you hear about what you're doing and everything in the new school that you're building, like people are going to want to come alongside you and support you. And what is the best way for them to do that?
There are a lot of different opportunities to support Amazima. Most of the different opportunities can be found on our website, which is amazima.org. And but yeah, we're always looking for resources. There are some open positions there. We try to do mostly hiring of local Ugandans, but sometimes we have positions open for people from all over the world to come and serve with us. We currently have a couple from Brazil interviewing, and a couple from the Lebanon, and a few American couples that we're interviewing. So we like to bring people from all over the place to serve. And there are also all different, you know, things you can donate. You can donate to projects, you can donate to specific children's education. Sometimes we do donations as far as things like books and school supplies. So there are lots of different ways to partner with us on the website.
Wonderful, wonderful. I can't wait to check that out. I've been partnering with you for years and years, just like silently, because I just love what you're doing and I love your ministry. And I know some people look at your life and they're like, wow, God is really using Katie. Like, I want God to use me in such a big way like that. What would you say to that person who's like, I want to be used by God?
Yeah, that's a great question too. I think, you know, it's funny because I hear people say that about me and almost like internally roll my eyes. And
you're wondering like, what are you talking about?
Today I folded laundry and I did a read aloud with our second grader, and I chopped some zucchinis to get ready for dinner so that I could start cooking after this, you know?
Exactly.
But sometimes I stand on the campus of one of our schools and I'm just in tears because it is like, oh God, you did this. You know, I mean, it feels so clear that it was not of me, that it was a work of the Lord. And so my encouragement would just be to keep, I mean, I kind of already touched on, just to keep saying yes to the little opportunities that God puts in front of you. And I think that is what makes an extraordinary life, that as he gives us opportunities to serve him and to serve others, we step into those things. And like you said, we know that he's going to bless those things when we're walking in obedience to him. And, you know, you never know what the fruit of that's going to be. I had no idea years ago that ministry would look like this, or even that my family would look like this. But yeah, I think there's such blessing just in following him in obedience in the small things. And God's really the one that makes the small things into the big things.
Yeah. Yeah, he really does. I want to share something with you. I wasn't planning on sharing this with you, but what you said really inspired me. Is when you sat there, when you stood there in tears and you said, God, you did this. And Katie, I had the exact same moment about 2 weeks ago, thinking about everything he's done through our ministry here. And I was sitting there thinking about it, looking out at the lake and just crying, just sobbing, saying, God, you did this. And it was so amazing because I felt the Holy Spirit just speak to me. And he said, no, we did this. Because the amazing thing is, Katie, you had a choice to say yes or no. And that's really all God requires of us, is just say yes. Like, I will show up in power. I will show up in providence. I'll do all the heavy lifting. Just say yes. And I just want to share that with you because you did. You chose to say yes. And I believe everyone every day has that opportunity that God will put something before us, a need, and or someone who just needs to be served in some way, or anything right in front of us, and we have the choice to say yes or no. And you said yes. And I want to thank you for having that boldness, because of the lives that have been changed as a result of that.
Thank you. That's very encouraging.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing what all God will do. I want to ask one more thing before I let you go to that zucchini. And and do you ever, I know sometimes you come back to the States, for book tours or speaking. What is the biggest difference that you notice? Because I know that it's the culture so different, but I feel like sometimes God is so open to showing up in a place that has a more desperate need for him. And I just wanted to pick your brain a little bit about the biggest differences you see when you come to the United States or any, Westernist culture, as opposed to like when you're there at home in Uganda.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I really only probably spend a couple weeks in the States a year at the most, but so I'm no expert, but one kind of difference that always jumps out at me when I am in the States is just the pace of life. I feel very fortunate to live in Uganda, where the pace of life is just a little bit slower. And honestly, I mean, as an American here, that used to really get on my nerves. Like, things just move a little bit slower. But I think the beauty in that is that there's time to stop and have a conversation. And there's time for your neighbor to come into your house unannounced in the middle of the day. And you don't have to rush to the next thing. And a lot of times when I am in the States, I just almost feel it upon entry that everybody is in a hurry to the next thing. And I think it takes a lot of practice to slow down. And I think it takes a lot of practice to say no to some of the things that might be unimportant, so that we can say yes to the things that are important. I have a really good friend here. She lives just down the street from me. And I tell her this all the time, but she has 4 kids and she has a job, and, she's doing all the things that a mom does. But when you go into her home, she stops everything she's doing, and you feel like you are the only thing in the world. You are the only thing that is important, because she will sit with you and she will talk with you and she will ask you how you are doing. And every time I am convicted, just like, I want this. I want when people stop to speak with me. It doesn't matter if it's a neighbor who comes over, or if it's someone who stops me on the street, or if it's a waitress in a coffee shop. I want that person to feel that they have my attention and that they are important, because that speaks to the value that God gives that person. And so I kind of hold that in my mind as something that Uganda has taught me, just that Ugandans have time for people. And I think sometimes in America, we have so much going on, and we're just so busy trying to get it all done and get to the next thing, that we can really lose sight of what is important, and that's relationship. Yeah. And I think too, I mean, part of that too is just that our culture here is such an outside culture. Like you do your washing and you hang it up outside and you bathe your baby in a bucket outside. You know, just a lot of life is happening kind of out in front of people's houses here. And so that just cultivates a knowing of your neighbor and a spirit of togetherness. And sometimes, at least where I'm from in the States, it feels like everybody's inside and then everybody's in their car and then they're going to the next place that is inside. And I've had several of my kids go to university in America, and so they actually would be great people to ask this question to, because they spend a whole lot more time in both cultures than I do at this point. And I've also had the privilege of bringing some of my friends from Uganda to America for various reasons. One whose son had surgery there a while ago, and I just remember her asking me as soon as we got to my parents' house, like, where are all the people? And it was true, you know, we went outside on a walk, like on this little path, and occasionally like a jogger or someone passes you. But on a whole, like there weren't a lot of people out and about. And here it's just like you walk everywhere and you grow your food in the garden, and there's just a lot more outside time, which leads to bumping into people a lot more. So yeah, I think I've learned a lot from this culture about how to value people and how to kind of try to weed out some of the things that feel all important, but like really aren't so important, to make time for relationships.
Oh, so true, because we just get kind of wrapped up in the distractions and we forget about what's really, really important. And I love that you really brought that home. It's about relationships. It's about us connecting and that intimacy we have with each other. I mean, we're the body of Christ and we need to be connected. You know, we can't be operating in isolation. But that's so beautiful. So is there would you like to share anything else for people who are just wondering, like, God, what do I do? Like, I want to show up big. I want to do what Katie's able to do. You've used her. Like, I know we've talked about like meeting that next need that's right in front of you. But is there anything else that you've seen about how God's really able to show up in power and to transform lives, and that we can access that?
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely believe that. We've been reading as a family, we've been doing this Bible plan, and we're reading through Genesis again. And it is just, I mean, it's so encouraging. We're on Joseph right now, you know, and Joseph is just like, oh man, your life is so terrible. Like really bad things keep happening to you, right? And God just continues to like pull Joseph out of that place and into a place of favor, you know. And he says repeatedly, even in the New Testament, that he gives us everything we need for life and godliness. And just going back to what we were talking about at the very beginning when we started, of just, I look back at my own life and think, how did I do that? You know, but it wasn't me. That is how I did
That's
it.
true.
I didn't do it alone. It was, you know, it was God giving me the strength that I needed minute by minute. And so I would just encourage people, you know, what is it that he's placing in front of you? What opportunity do you have to serve? And honestly, you might look at it and go, I can't do that.
And that's probably exactly where you're supposed to go. That
Or
place
I
that you think
don't
is
know that I have the
impossible.
strength or the time or the resources or the whatever. But I think that if it is of God and he is asking you to love or serve in that way, he will give you what you need to do the next thing. And that might be a ministry related thing, or it might be making dinner for your family, or it might be, you know, spending one-on-one time with your child, who is the most difficult, who you don't want to spend one-on-one time with, because we've all been there, right? But I do think that whatever he's asking you to do next, he is going to supply your need to do that.
Oh, beautiful. Katie, thank you so much. And remember, Katie's doing an amazing thing there. She's got an incredible team. So please go and see how you can support everything they're doing at Amansima Ministries. It's AMAZIMA.org. So make sure you check that out. Katie, thank you so much.
Thanks.